And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. Cue in the intro. And we're back. Welcome to all the viewers today. Thank you for joining me. We have a lot of interesting stories to discuss, so without further ado, let's begin. So let's take a look here on our top stories. For our first story here, we have Amazon. Amazon, the e-commerce giant, is in trouble. According to Reuters, a U.S. senator is urging a criminal probe on the said company for their predatory data practices. When you say predatory data practices, meaning they're using information of their third-party retailers and using that information to create their own product to compete with their partners. Now, this may look unfair, which it is. That's why the government is stepping in, opening a criminal antitrust investigation of said company. And they're not alone in this situation. Other companies that are under investigation are Google, Apple, as well as Facebook. And according to the state attorney general, sorry, he's saying that this is especially concerning with regards to small retailers that have become more reliant or dependent on the retail sales using said platform. So what are their options here? Even if they want to complain about it, do they have any alternative and go to another platform and start all over again? And what should be the consequence of, like in this case, Amazon's predatory practices? Now, whether that's true or not, hopefully the government can find out. Now, obviously, according to the Amazon spokesperson, he's saying that they don't believe that the claims are accurate and that they're taking the allegations very seriously. And guess what happens a week later with this report? So the U.S. House has called for Amazon's Jeff Bezos to testify in court to explain the issues that was, you know, uh, issues that they are taking advantage of their resources. So here we have a picture of Mr. Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. So he looks so happy here, right? Yet he's being investigated and he's been summoned to testify. And according to the Associate General Counsel, Nate Sutton has denied said allegation. And according to the Wall Street Journal, which reported last month that indeed Amazon did use said data to their advantage, citing 20 former employees of Amazon's private label businesses. So what could this mean for those third-party retailers? Is this the end for them? Or can they do something about it? Now, obviously, the government has to protect the interests of those small businesses. Otherwise, they'll go out of business. Now, another option is maybe they can start out their own e-commerce platform, but again, this will entail costs in terms of managing all the supply chain network, from storing your products and delivering your products to your customers. It's a long ways before, you know. Question is what can be done. So leave your comments down below and give your feedback. There you go. Sorry, forgot to switch the screen. Anyway, and on another related story, so this is not the only problem that the company has to attend to. An attorney general in New York is raising concerns about Amazon's pandemic safety practices. And according to the source, they may have violated safety measures and labor practices during the pandemic, as it has fired a warehouse protest leader uh, as recently as last month. Now, what the company is saying, or according to Amazon, they terminated said employee, which is in this case is Mr. Christian Smalls. The person was fired not because of being critical of the warehouse, company's warehouse condition. It's because he put others at risk by violating his paid quarantine when he was told to stay at home. And not only that, he was also said to have close contact with a diagnosed associate with a confirmed case of COVID-19. He was asked to remain home with pay for 2 weeks. Despite the instruction, he did not follow and still went on site with others at risk. That's what the company is saying. Here's what's interesting. Eh, The VP for Amazon quit his job in protest of said whistleblowers firing. This is Tim Bray, the former vice president, said in his blog post that he quit in protest of Amazon's firing of the whistleblowers who criticized the treatment of its warehouse workers during the pandemic. What's interesting here is there was a leaked memo later showing that a high-level executive discussing Smalls in a very unflattering manner with the meeting with the CEO, Mr. Jeff Bezos. It states here that he is not smart or articulate, and to the extent the press wants to focus on us versus him, we will be in a much stronger PR position, according to the lawyer, David Zapolsky. So maybe there's truth behind the allegation, or there's truth to the report that maybe there's a problem with the safety protocols that Amazon is implementing or not implementing. Now, either way, whether it's a he said, she said, at the end of the day, the company has to do right with their employees. Now, during this pandemic, they're reaping the benefit with the sudden influx of orders from people stuck at home, working at home, and such. So you have to meet the demands of your customer as well as your employees. At the end of the day, the company is nothing without your employees and your customers, right? And what's interesting again is if it were just an isolated incident, firing just one person, again, last month, they also fired two designers for criticizing the company's treatment of its warehouse workers. So maybe it's not it's not an isolated incident anymore. And according to the one of the designers, Emily Cunningham, she said she was thankful the the vice president resigned in protest of firing said employee. Continuing, speaking of billionaires, do you know who's the fourth richest person in the world? He manages is the chief executive of Berkshire Hathaway. That's Mr. Warren Buffett, and his company is posting a nearly 50 billion loss due to the pandemic that is occurring right now. Now, many businesses obviously are suffering tremendously, and many of his business interests are facing relatively minor to severe negative effects. Now, what's interesting here is during these times of crisis, he is more often seen visible in terms of investing many of his uh, investing in a lot of companies. But something's different in this instance. He's not investing. He's not encouraging other people to invest, and he doesn't see any opportunities even within his own stocks. And a good example is he's not only not buying, he's even selling stakes in other businesses. And one in particular is in the U.S. airline industry. So he has four stakes in the four major carriers, namely Delta Airline, American Airlines, Southwest Airlines Company, and United Airlines. So he's the largest stakeholders in all four major airlines. Since the U.S. travel demand has significantly dropped by as much as 95%, the industry has changed rapidly. He admittedly said that he made a mistake in investing in the airline industry by as much as 7 to 8 billion. He once thought considering investing more, but what has happened now is, you know, investors are disappointed in terms of the performance. Stock price have already fallen by as much as 19%. So what's going on here? Maybe he's seeing something that maybe others are not seeing. Now, according to the article here in Reuters, it mentions here that Mr. Buffett is using a indicator of such to determine if the market is doing well or poorly. So he uses the market capitalization to GDP ratio, or also known as the Buffett indicator, which measures the total value of all publicly traded stock in a country and divided by the GDP of said country. Where is it? There we go. So it assesses whether the country's stock market is overvalued or undervalued. So let me show you a chart here to show you my example. Where is it? Yeah, here we have here. So you can see here that we have the chart ranging from as early as early 70s, 1970s, all the way to the present. Now, I want you to take note of four key points here that a crisis occurred. So take a look in the very first instance, way back in the early 1970s, where the stock market crashed. And then the second instance, where it crashed again, in the early 2000s, where the dot-com crash occurred. Then the third instance here is during the 2007-2008 financial crisis. And take note of the current situation that we're in right now. Here we are today. If you notice, compared to the previous instances that we had, you know, financial crisis, it's now at its apex, even surpassing the peaks of during in the early 2000s. Now, what's concerning here is most of the crashes that occurred significantly dropped almost 50%, and right now it's still going up. And with the pandemic that's going on today, and that could significantly hasten the process of crashing the market all the way down. So how prepared are we? Maybe he's seeing something that we don't. Actually, in another related article, his cash take increased from $137 billion compared to previous year to only 128 billion, meaning he's not investing as much or acquiring businesses as much compared to previous years. So meaning he's preparing for, I won't say a doomsday device, but he's preparing for a worst case scenario here. Anyway, continuing with our topic. So to segue to another different topic or story, speaking of fun, do you know what is considered the happiest place on earth? If you're thinking of Disney, the Disney theme park, you're correct. So Disney is reopening its park. Actually, they have opened their park. Sorry, Disney has already opened their park in some areas, in particular in Shanghai Disney. Only a limited opening, wherein they're asking their visitors to wear masks, as well as employees to carry contactless thermometers and hand sanitizers. But the main question here is, should they be reopening this soon? Right? Especially the nature of a theme park wherein kids are roaming around, running around, they're all over the place. And what's concerning here is, let's take a look at where's that article. And going back to what I was saying. So what's concerning here is how safe is this theme park? Can they guarantee the safety of all visitors visiting the happiest, considered the happiest place on earth? Obviously, it's sensible to understand why they're trying to plan already when to open the park, since the Disney company, which owns the Disney theme park, generates one third of its revenue from the theme parks as well as selling merchandises as well. So opening the park will be difficult, but if Disney can show how to effectively reopen its park safely, then other business might follow suit. But again, at the end of the day, it's not just about revenue that you have to consider, but the safety of your personnel, not just your customer, but as well as your employees. Now, opening business is important in two folds. Obviously, to generate revenue as well as to support your employees and sustain your business. So, what can be done here? Now, according to the article, they're suggesting that they should limit the guest capacity of people coming in and out. Now, maybe they could reduce it by half. Let's say the capacity on a regular day is around 20,000 people. Maybe they could reduce it by half to 10,000 only, so that they can ensure there's enough space, there's enough social distancing amongst visitors. And then make arrangement in terms of queuing, 1 meter distance, and then for the rides, one seat apart, things of such. And again, would people be going even if there's no vaccine that has been discovered yet? But again, operating or going back to business is important as well, and this will help employees stay afloat, meaning provide for their support for themselves as well as for their families. But again, at the end of the day, would the company Disney risk everything so that they can generate more revenue versus the PR nightmare if what if one of their visitors were to catch the virus or contract the virus? Now they're planning to reopen as early as later this June. Actually, as mentioned earlier, they've already reopened in some parts on a limited basis in Shanghai, but they plan to reopen in other parts of the United States later this June or as later as January next year. Now, Reuters did a poll conducted last month, and they polled a little over 4,000 individuals, wherein one-fifth of the people that responded said they would attend the amusement park whenever they open, regardless of the situation. How crazy can that be? And then another 30% would go if a vaccine was readily available. What do you think? Would you go to the theme park? If they can, how can they ensure the safety? If they can ensure the safety, would you still go? Again, speaking of vaccine, I just want to segue to a different topic. Now, the vaccine regarding the COVID-19 is a very interesting one, so I would like to share this with you. I was watching a video yesterday, or last night? Yeah, yesterday. Anyway, in this video, I saw the video, a person being interviewed, Dr. Jerome Kim, who was being interviewed. He was he is the Director General of the International Vaccine Institute, or IV, when he discussed in detail what the virus is all about and what's the process of making the vaccine. Now, if you want to check more, see the entire video, I'll post a link in the description below so you can check it out. It's in YouTube. The channel is Asian Boss Channel, so go check it out later on. Anyway, in the video, he was being interviewed asking how the virus works and so forth. And what's interesting here is when he was asked in terms of the process of making a vaccine, an effective vaccine, he says that it could take typically as much as 10 years. It's a really long time. You can just imagine the ordeal that we have to endure if that were the case. But That's typically the normal process. Now, the vaccine has three stages. So the first is where they do clinical trials using animals, in this case, hamsters, mice, or such. And then if the results are positive, then they move to stage two, or then they test it on healthy human beings on a small sample size, maybe around 30 to 50. Then again, if the desired results is achieved, then they go to stage three, wherein they would test on a controlled basis, meaning there are two groups here. One group would have the vaccine, then the other group would have the placebo, meaning the vaccine is not utilized. So if best case scenario, if it works, then they can market it, get it approved by the FDA, and then market to the public. And again, if noticed, going through those process takes a lot of financial resources, and as he mentioned, it could cost for as little as $500 million to as much as $1 billion or even more. So no wonder medicines are so expensive, and it takes a long time to even discover one. Uh, Wait here. I think for a while, I think I have a problem with my setup here. Let me just go back here. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Having technical difficulties. What else is new? Anyway, so hopefully, if you're interested with the video, the full video will be uh, is in the link in the description below, so you can check it out, or you can go to the channel Asian Boss channel, which I found it to be interesting. They have several nice videos, so do check them out. I go where was I? Oh, going back. So speaking of shoes, are you familiar with the brand name Allbirds? So Allbirds is a running shoe company. Okay. When I first read this article, I was thinking, what is Allbirds? Anyway, so according to the article, they're debuting its running first shoe this year. Of all the time they're going to debut a product, it's this year. Anyway, according to the co-founder Tim Brown, Allbirds is a comfortable wool sneakers made out of sustainable materials. So they've been perfecting the running silhouette shoes for years. And what's interesting is, why are they launching the product in this crisis? Now, one reason they said is it is an opportunity to launch the product, since one key reason is that since many gyms are shut down to try to halt the spread of the virus, people are turning to running outside for exercise, whether it be running on the treadmill or maybe running around their neighborhood. So they felt that the product was serving that purpose. Yeah, it makes sense. So question is, what does it look like? Let me see here. Okay, take a look here. Right, sorry. There you go. So would you buy their products? What do you think? Looks nice. Looks like casual wear, running shoes. Let's look at another picture here. There you go. So this one's a different color scheme. This is blue. Let's see, there's another one. Yeah, I don't know what color is this supposed to be. Is this supposed to be white or gray? They could have chosen a better picture or better shoe to represent the company. It's dirty. Anyway, I think they have one more picture here. Let's see, where is it? There you go. This looks much better. What color do they call it? I thought it was orange. Its shade is light red. So, question: would you buy their shoes? Would you try it out? Anyway, continuing our topic. Speaking of companies furloughing their employees, again, during this crisis, many companies are still furloughing many of its employees, and one of those companies is Tesla. The tech giant is still suspending its production at its Fremont, California plant since March 24th. Now, the restrictions will extend through May, and they've already furloughed all of their non-essential workers as well as made salary cuts during this crisis. Now, another company that is set to cut more jobs, which is Ryanair, the Europe's biggest budget airline, is set to lay off 15% of its workforce in a cost-cutting dive, not dive, cutting drive. Now, according to the CEO, Michael O'Leary, they vow to emerge stronger from this said crisis. But one of his statements also is kind of alarming, which is reasonable. That according to him, he said that prices is going to be grim. Pricing is going to be grim, meaning prices for airlines will drop. But is that good for traveling? Maybe, but I think there's a recommendation being proposed in terms of passengers have to have one seat apart from one another, and I don't know how airlines are going to sustain that. Some are already arguing that they're against this proposal. It would make them, you know, be not profitable. Anyway, and again, in his statement, he mentioned that the competitive environment is going to be green, meaning stiff competition. Actually, in a video I just saw recently, many of the major carriers are grounding their airlines. They're parked literally in the airport. You see it. It's very nice how they park in the runway, but it's not good for them. If the airlines are grounded, the depreciation alone, the maintenance cost alone is going to be gargantuan. Anyway. Then he also mentions here that the situation is going to be like this for the next 2-3 years, which is a reasonable assumption since how long before people are comfortable traveling again. And it's not just Ryanair who's laying off more employees. Another is British Airways and Aer Lingus, I hope I'm pronouncing its name, set to lay off 12,000 of its staff members. And there's some good news. So for those companies who are in a financial crunch, their government is them. So Germany's flagship carrier, Lufthansa, as well as uh, France's major carrier or flagship carrier, Air France, is being bailed to as much as 50 billion euros. And finally, for some local news, so again, businesses are still suffering during this pandemic, and according to article, the businesses are losing for as much as 700 billion pesos. So that's already causing a dip in our GDP. According to estimates, we're supposed to have a 19 trillion GDP and could lose as much as 6%. That's 1.1 trillion pesos if the economy fails to grow this year. But according to the NEDA acting chief, or secretary, sorry, Carl Chua, sees the economy bouncing back in the second half as more parts of the country gradually eases the lockdown restrictions from ECQ or enhanced community quarantine to general community quarantine, which is good news for most of us since many many jobs has been lost, and according to article, you know as many as 1 million jobs has been lost. But again, even if we're trying to speed up the process of jump-starting our economy, we still have to be very careful and cautious in terms of how fast should we move forward, because we don't want to run the risk. Wait, what's happening here? So we don't want to run the risk. I think there's a problem with the camera. For a while, let me try to. I think there's something wrong with the camera. Let me try to reset it. Uh huh. Let's see if this works. Uh, hmm. Try to reset this one. Difficult having to reset things. There we go. No. Let me go back here. There you go. I don't know what happened. I think the camera froze. Sorry for that one. Anyway, going. Where was I? Yes, I was talking about the local news. So again, so companies are having to deal with this situation. Not only that, you know, individual citizens are having to, you know, find new jobs. And what's I would say what's worse, but on the related news, since summer has already arrived, which means many of our students are graduating this year or have already graduated. So the question is, what will happen to their job prospects? And what's concerning here is there will be more than almost a million students graduating this year. And if you take into account the 1 million job loss that was I just mentioned earlier, what does this mean? Another 1 million people will be unemployed, or maybe this is an opportunity for many students who are graduating this year. Maybe they could see as an opportunity of finding ways, or maybe even starting their own business, or finding different types of job that they didn't consider early on. Again, it depends on how you look at things. You may think that it's doom and gloom, but there's always opportunity uh, around the corner. And here's some good news. Businesses are back. So even though some businesses are still shut down, some are trying to open slowly but surely. And one of those companies is Frutas. For those who are not familiar, they're known for their fruit shakes. I've tried their mango shake. I miss drinking those mango shakes. How long can I before I can try their products again? Hopefully sooner rather than later. Anyway, in the article, according to the Business World Online, Frutas is planning to open majority of its stores, or opening more of its stores when the downgrade quarantine is implemented in selected areas starting this month. And they plan to open 60 more stores by end of this week so that they can ramp up deliveries for their stores. And according to the CEO Lester Yu, as we resume more operation in more stores, we will continue to adapt our business model and optimize the use of our resources. And according to him, they are confident that they will emerge stronger and thrive in the post-pandemic environment. Good for them. And that's not the only business that are returning. The malls are opening again. In particular, Robinson's Mall. They set to reopen in general community quarantine areas by May. So this is was according to the Senior Vice President Arlene Matibay. Robinson's Mall, which is the second largest mall operator in the Philippines, they have 52 malls across Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao said that it will open its malls in areas that will be placed under general community quarantine. And they will follow guidelines set by the national and local government. And it was mentioned that they will be implementing existing sanitation and safety protocols and introduce new measures to mitigate the spread of the virus, which is important. So they will implement such thing as implement a 1 meter social distancing. Okay, they will check body temperatures and require visitors to wear face masks. I think that's polite, and ensure benches or sitting other sitting in the mall will be marked for social distancing as well. Okay, escalators will be implemented a three-step gap. I think that's reasonable again. Then guards will be roaming around to disperse crowds and prohibit small gatherings to uphold social distancing. Okay. And then for high contact surfaces will be cleaned regularly. So like restrooms, dining areas, escalator handrails, elevator buttons, and such. It's important to keep it clean. Now, as for those tenants in the malls, they will be required to provide alcohol and sanitizers for mall goers when entering their store. Actually, I would add a suggestion in terms of limiting the number of people going inside the the stores themselves, not just the mall. And they would maintain a 1 meter gap for queuing. Yes, that's sensible. And there was a draft being proposed to mall operators by the IATF. Now, some of the proposal makes sense, but some of it does not. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'll just go over some of the list so everyone is aware. So if you do plan to go to the mall, so at least you're well aware, informed on what is expected from every one of us. So mall goers are limited to those aged 21 to 59. I think that's acceptable. We want to avoid those who are vulnerable, who might catch the virus. So, but what they're saying here is they need to present their identification cards and not look sickly. What do you mean? Wear makeup or such? How can you identify if people is looking sickly, if people are wearing masks, covering their mouth, and so forth? So I think they have to be realistic in their expectation. Are they expecting guards to, you know, are guards going to be converted as medical experts all of a sudden? I don't know. And then they're also proposing limited number of people going inside the mall. Now this this totally makes sense. So maybe reducing half of it, right? So you funnel your customers to the main entrances. Maybe one main entrance for the walk-in customers, and then one main entrance for those people who brought in their cars. And again, you have to ensure the fast process of letting people in and out. You don't want to have a long queue, right? Or if you have a queue, you have to observe the social 1 meter distance, right? And that's going to, you know, what do you call this? It's going to cause a lot of headache, and customers will be irritated. Speaking of irritated, they also plan to propose to increase the air conditioned temperatures by as much as 26 degrees. I think the mall already tried to do that, and I think customers were not happy. Even I was not happy. I mean, if you're going to let customers or people visit the mall, then you should allow them to stay there. Now, if you don't want them to stay there, then you limit their movement in terms of what stores can open, what stores cannot be open. Simply increasing the temperatures, since it's summer now, it's really hot and humid. So, what type of experience do you want your mall goers to have? Now, I know you want them to avoid lingering in malls. So, again, you limit the movement by limiting the stores that you wanted open. So, food stalls can open, clothing stores, electronics. How about playgrounds for kids? So that cannot open. So how about cinemas? So are you going to allow cinemas? Can people watch movies again? So will there be a 1 seat apart distancing so that they don't bump into one another? So they have to consider a lot of things. It's my kid. Anyway, so what do you think is a good suggestion that would help protect our citizens as well as help our businesses here? Since if the malls do open, not all businesses can function properly. They have to limit in terms of the interaction. So it has to be sensible. It cannot be simply just to limit and make it difficult for our for us, for me and for everyone else, right? And finally, speaking of our frontliners, kudos for them, taking care of us, ensuring our safety, helping our sick people. We have good news. It's not just all about bad news, but here we have several companies doing their part to contribute to help our frontliners as well as our affected families. One such company is Nestle Philippines, when they have already contributed 500 million pesos to help the program to help 1 million families nationwide. So the company, Nestle, is upholding its 100-year-old tradition as the kasambuhay or trusted companion in life, wherein they help Filipino families uh, by providing their products that are in need of healthcare as well as its employees and its business partners. So kudos to them. So they've reached out to millions of families, communities in need, as well as our frontliners by providing kasambuhay kits like Nescafe, Milo, Bear Brand, Coco Crunch, Chucky, and Maggie. So that's a lot of products. And according to the CEO, Kais Marzuki, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, that they care deeply for Filipino families and communities. And we will live up to their trust by doing our part to help, including sharing our products with those who need them the most. More power to them. Actually, they're also supporting our Philippine Red Cross by contributing 10 million that will help spend to augment their government efforts to address the pandemic. You know, they're not the only company doing their part. We also have the Wilcon Depot, the home improvement construction supplier retailer, is collaborating with Project Kaagapay, protecting our healthcare heroes, our frontliners, by donating several of their equipments. 16,000 of personal protective equipment or PPE, as well as 60,000 face masks. So that's a lot of people who's going to benefit. We try to do our part. If you're a company, you help people. So those equipment will be distributed to different hospitals across Metro Manila. So we try to do everything in our power to help our frontliners. Businesses try to contribute in their own way. For individuals, we try to stay safe. We try not to harm other people by following what the guidelines set by our government. Anyway, that concludes our story for today. Let's take a look here. Let's take a look at the comments below before we conclude today's live stream. Hello, Garcia. J. Garcia. What's the J? Joshua? Is that Joshua? Anyway. So, for those who are just tuning in, there are a lot of things happening in this world. Some are interesting, some are, some are thought-provoking. Anyway, so before we conclude today's session or live stream, I would like to thank for those who are able to join in today. And for more live stream, for more news, for more updates, don't forget to hit the bell notification icon so that you'll be updated for the latest live stream or news. So don't forget to subscribe as well. So thanks for watching. For more for more business news. So I'll see you next week, same time, same channel. That's it. Ah, yes. Beaver on moment. Hello, Beaver. Number one fan. Thanks for the support. Having some technical difficulties earlier. Still a work in progress. Anyway, for those who will watch it later on, you can leave your comments below, and I'll try to read it later on and get back to you. Anyway, tune in again for next week, same time, same channel. Thanks for watching. Bye. You in the outro. Where's that button? There you go. Where's that end button? Are you sure you want to end your stream?